Today we're going to be talking about lesson 20-3, multiplying and dividing radical expressions. Number one. Sorry, this is going to be split into 4 sections. Number 1, example A, example B, and then example C. A says, complete the table below and simplify the radical expressions in the third and fifth columns. All right. We've got here in the third column, it wants us to do the square root of A, which is the first column, times the square root of B, which is the 9, the second column. And this would be 2, and this would be 3. So that's going to be 6. Here it says, what is A times B? Well, A times B, 4 times 9 is 36. And the square root of 36 is 6. All right. It wants us to do the square root of 100 times the square root of 25. That would be 10 times 5, 50. Here it wants us to multiply those together. 100 times 25 is 2,500. And the square root of 2,500 is 50. Here we're going to do the square root of 9 times the square root of 16. That's going to be 3 times 4, which is 12. 9 times 16 is 144. And the square root of 144 doesn't look clean. Let's go ahead and erase that and come back to it. Okay, write that again. 144 is 12. It says, use the pattern you observed in the table above to write an equation that relates to the square root of A, square root of B, and the square root of AB. Give me an equation that relates to the square root of A, the square root of B, and the square root of AB. What do you notice here? I agree. The square root of A times the square root of B is equal to the square root of AB. The values, that's the reason why it asked us to simplify, so we could see that the values are always the same. All of the values of A and B in part A are perfect squares. In the table below, choose some values for A and B that are not perfect squares, and use a calculator to show that the equation you wrote in part B is true for those numbers as well. So I'll go with 3, 7. Here I'm going to go with 5, and I'll even do 10. Okay? So we're going to do the square root of A times B. So I got the square root of 3 times the square root of 7. Now, whenever I type this on the calculator, I'm going to press the second key and hit the x squared key. It's going to give me that radical. We want to do the square root of 3. And we want to multiply that by the square root of 7. That gives me approximately 4.58 and some numbers, right? Here it wants us to do A times B. Well, 3 times 7 is 21. In this last column, it wants me to do the square root of 21. Square root of 21 is approximately 4.58. Let's take a look here at line 2. Square root of 5 times the square root of 10. Square root of 5 times the square root of 10 gives me approximately 7.07. What is 5 times 10? Well, that's 50. And the square root of 50 is approximately 7.07. So what do we notice here? Does this equation hold true? Yes. They are the same value from here to here. D says, simplify the products in columns A and B below. 2 times the square root of 4 times the square root of 9. Well, what is 2 times, what's the square root of 4? 2, right? And what's the square root of 9? 3. So I would have 2 times 2 times 3. That's going to be 12. All right. Here we have 3 times 2 times 5 times 4. That's going to be 20, 40, 120 maybe. Yep, 120. All right, let's take a look here. We got 2 already outside. Ooh, square root of 7. Ooh, we got 3. Then I'm going to make this a square root of 4 times, not 4, 49. 7 times 14 divided by 49. Okay, that's what I thought. 49 times 2. And 49 is a perfect square. So we would have 2 times 3 times 7 square root of 2, which makes this 2 times 3 times 7, 42 square root of 2. Let's take a look at this other column. Well, this is 36, and 36, the square root is 6, so that's going to be 12. Here we're going to have 15. 4 times 16 is 64. We know that to be 8. Whoops, sorry, didn't mean to write that there. So this should have been 15 times 8 is 120. We've got 6, and we've got the square root of 49 and 2, which equals 6 square root. I'm using my train of thought here. Let's go back here. Okay, so that's going to be 6 times 7 square root of 2, which makes this 42 square root of 2. E. Which products in the table in part D are rational and which are irrational? Any of these rational? Yeah, the first 2 rows. are rational. The bottom row is irrational. All right, moving to the top of the next page. It says, write a verbal rule that explains how to multiply radical expressions. First, multiply the coefficients, the numbers in front. Then multiply the radicand, which is the number underneath. And simplify the results. All right, on to your debriefing of this section.